Tosses, you don't throw it out.
Solid. Oh my, what a...
I stick and move through the madness, bob and weave the negative, blocking out the haters. My meditation is medicine.
What is up, guys? It's your boy FightNightsFinest, the Sofa commentator, back on another edition of Live Fight Friday. And it's been a while, but I have to tell you this before we actually dive any deeper into this video, and that this isn't a live commentary, and this isn't the match that I had intended for Live Fight Fridays. That got messed up. I don't know how it got messed up, and then I lost the audio afterwards. I was gonna fight a subscriber and my boy Mr. Showtime, but yeah, the fight got messed up. So I guess this is just an addition. It was like a full fight Friday instead of Live Fight Friday. You know, some of you guys really do enjoy the full fight, so I'm bringing you guys another one here. In the gameplay, we got Roberto Duran going up against Miguel Cotto. He's using the outside. I'm trying to come forward and pressure on the inside, but I'll hop into the gameplay and the game plan and all that I usually do later on, because I actually thought it would be pretty cool to bring you guys a topic, since you're going to be sitting here for the next 20 minutes, or maybe some of you guys won't. Truly do appreciate you just clicking on the video or leaving a like or a comment or whatever it is that you decide to do. But today I actually wanted to talk about competitive gaming, since we kind of missed Topical Wednesday with the drama that went down in that video. I have to say, I really do appreciate all the support that you guys give me, and keeping it honest and giving me your honest opinion, and you know, just being there to help me whenever it is somebody's, you know, trying to make a name for himself, or you know, we don't got time for groupies is what I'm trying to say. And I'm more than glad to move forward and look to the positive side and continue to make my videos. Whether some of you guys' views may have not changed, some of you guys' views may have changed, doesn't really matter at this point, because I know you guys got my back and you got my best interests at hand, and I truly do appreciate that. But moving on into today's topic, and I want to actually talk about competitive gaming. Is maybe you guys like to watch competitive gaming, or you know, some people consider it an actual sport, and the way things are set up, for certain games I guess you could say that it could be a sport, but yeah, we'll get into that in a few seconds. But competitive gaming is basically people who play the game for money, or play the games to get some type of accomplishment or some type of trophy. You know, they look for some type of incentive, and some people actually game for a living. And I know for me that would be a lot of pressure, but at the same time it sounds like one of the most enjoyable experiences in the world, to actually do something that you love, be competitive at it, get some recognition for it, and at the same time make some money off of it. And you don't ever have to worry about working a real job or being in a suit and tie. And I ain't saying there's nothing wrong with that. You know, if you want to work, you know, or if you have something that you're truly passionate about and you're able to do that on a daily basis, then, you know, more fun, more power to you. But for the most part, I like to say, you know, that sounds like something I would love to do. It's just game. Like literally just go against other tough competitors, practice, you know, work my way through a season in order to become or recognize best, in order to get onto a bigger stage, and then go at it with other great players that's good at the game. That sounds like one of the most funnest things that you can possibly ever do in life. Well, for me as a gamer and somebody who's been playing video games their whole life, that sounds like nothing but a dream. So competitive gaming, you know, I say some people consider it to be a sport, and if you look at it, you know, they got some of the same things that professional athletes got. You know, some people are sponsored. Like, there's teams out there that are sponsored. Some of them get jerseys, they get outfits, you know. They're put on the map, they're recognized as a certain team, or go by a certain team name, and people know them by that. They battle their way through a season, as I said earlier, in order to make it to a competitive stage, and then they all go at it in elimination. So it's like, I guess you could consider gaming to be an actual sport when you really come down and look at it, because, you know, even though they're not doing a lot of physical activity like some of these sports required, where, you know, you tackle, you punch, you run, you know, that kind of thing, and it requires you to be in great physical shape. When you look at it and you think about it, they go through a lot of the same things. They do practice, you know, they do have teamwork. Certain games do have teamwork, and it all requires you to, you know, be fully focused, fully prepared, and ready for anything to happen at any time, and be able to adjust and adapt. Like, all good sport teams or all good competitive players do. So I guess, I don't know, what do you guys think? Is gaming, could it be considered a sport? Would you consider it a sport? I think it can be considered a sport. That's just my opinion. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. I want to know what you guys think. But into the competitive field. Now, when you look at the competitive gaming aspect, you know, there's a lot of players out there that these, you know, some people just live it out as a dream, or they attempt to do it, or they attempt to go at it. But for the most part, you know, not every competitive player is actually good, you know. Some people just hop into it with dreams of becoming good, and some people don't put into practice, or they don't put in the work, and simply others do, but they just don't have the experience that some teams or some players do have. And the way that I look at it is that if people are going to be involved in competitive gaming, you should know the risk that you take. You know, you should be fully prepared to dedicate yourself to, and it should be something that you have a lot of time to do, because those guys, you know, they have no fear that they're not going to lose. They go into that with 100% mindset that they're going to win at all costs, and they know what may happen if they don't win. So for me, it's really risky, because, you know, unless if you're a team or you're as a single player, and I'll get to that, my thoughts on that in a few seconds. But as a team or as a single player, you know, there's no doubt of losing. If you do lose, you know, you gotta wonder what you're gonna do with the money, or, you know, would you have enough money to live even if you lose? You know, there will be a lot of aspects or a lot of risks in competitive gaming if you're not sponsored, or if you're not a great tournament player. And for some casual players, you know, they really get it mixed up, where they try to hop into competitive gaming at a really high level, and they're simply just not prepared for it, or, you know, they don't know the aspects of it, and they just look into it because it's the hype train, and it looks good, it sounds great, but as all things, it requires a lot of work. So, you know, when it comes to casual players trying to get into, you know, competitive play, the big dogs separate themselves from the men, separate themselves from the boys. You know what I'm saying? Like, the higher elite players show themselves, while, you know, those people who are just there because they heard about it, or they think they can be good at it. The way I look at it is that competitive gaming, even though there's different forms of this complete teamwork, where you have people, and especially in first-person shooters, where they work together as a squad in order to win at an objective game mode, or get the most kills, or get the most, you know, get the most points for a certain objective. And then you got team-based gameplay, where it's a single player playing with the AI, padded against a person controlling. Like, basically, you set up where the AI goes, you set up what the AI does, and the AI is extremely important whenever it comes down to winning, because even though as a player you can put them in the right spots, or you can put them in the right zones, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to react that the way that you want them to, or do it to the full purpose that you truly had intended. So when I talk about team play games, I talk about games like Call of Duty, League of Legends. Those are games that are 100% team based. Like, for the most part, you know, they do search and destroy, team deathmatch, domination, that kind of thing. Also, when I talk about teamwork, I talk about, you heard me mention League of Legends, because that's basically 5 champions in one game that, you know, just try to destroy towers and move on to the enemy base and take it over, mess it up and destroy it and move on. So, you know, that's also relies completely on your teamwork, with a lot of other little things in there that affects how your champions get buffed, and how they work, and how it can give you that little edge that you possibly need in order to walk over the other team and get to the base and destroy the towers. So those type of games require 100% teamwork and really great communication. And the problem, that it's not really a problem, but I feel as competitive as if you're in a competitive game, that it should be just you. So you guys might say, you know, why is that? It's good to depend on other people, and in a lot of things, even in YouTube, it requires you to have a connection and a trust with, in this case, your subscriber base, or people who may come across to your channel, and a trust with yourself to make sure that you're putting out the best content ever. and that it can possibly benefit you pretty well in the future. So that trust between you and your subscribers is very important. And there's a lot of things, especially in gaming, in team gaming at least, where you have to be dependent on other people. Me per se, I don't mind being dependent on other people, but you know, people don't always show themselves to be the most trustworthy. And in certain situations, you know, if you have to rely or do it as a team, you know, if you have a quick lapse in skill, you can be blamed for it, or you know, somebody can catch your back. And it's like, what shows the true skill in that besides good teamwork? So I feel teamwork gameplays, or that shouldn't really be where competitive gaming is. It is there, but I think, well, I'll get into my thoughts in a second, because I actually want to talk about the next type of competitive gaming that you see, and this is with some sport games like Madden and 2K. You know, the player has to determine or set up a game plan. You know, they have a scheme, a control scheme that they run with certain route combinations, or in this case certain zone combinations, or certain screen combinations that they set up in order to get the best and maximum out of the AI and allow them to execute on plays. So we all know in football the objective is to score touchdowns and maybe field goals if you can't get the touchdowns, and stop your opponent on defense to prevent them from actually putting up any points on the board. So at the end of the day, it's all about points and how many you can get and how many you can prevent your team from getting. With the same thing in basketball, you know, you want to score baskets, score as many points as possible, and on defense, get the steals, rebounds, and prevent your team from actually prevent the other team from actually scoring points. But even though those games are really complicated and they're really strategy based, and they require a lot of knowledge of the game and quick setups, and knowing that how good the AI is and what the AI can possibly do for you, you know, you're still relying somewhat on computer assistance, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, all these games are absolutely competitive and it requires a lot of skill, but at the same time, you know, with those games you're still relying on computer-based AI, and if they mess up or they screw up, at the end of the day, that can cost you. The littlest thing that the AI did or what's in the system can take away from a player who's actually more skilled than his opponent. And there's been many times where you see it in Madden or in 2K where something that should have went down doesn't go down because of something that happens with the AI. So even though it's really competitive and it's really tough to do, there's still that need for the AI assistance. So in teamwork, you got to rely on each other. And AI assistant based games like Madden and 2K, even though you're doing the setups and stuff, you still have to count on the AI and on your quote-unquote AI team to work to your advantage as well. So even though those games are really competitive, I feel as a gamer and as a person that you shouldn't need no AI assistance whenever you go into the competitive field. This shows true skill based on you and you alone, and what your abilities is and how well you can do them. And the reason I say that is if you look at boxing, sports like boxing or UFC, or even 2D fighting games, and those games really require you to have a great deal of skill. I absolutely suck at 2D fighting games like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter, Tekken. Those games I suck balls at. Like, there's no denying that I really do suck. But those games require you to have absolute skill and absolute control over your character. You know, you got a energy bar that you got to manage. In Fight Night or in UFC, you got a stamina and health bar that you got to manage. And at the end of the day, if you can take all the stuff out of the match that truly does determine or give cheap little points, if you take that stuff out, you have a completely one-on-one skill-based game. And that's why I feel competitive gaming should be at. Games like Fight Night and UFC is completely skill-based. Now, you know, it may not always be the greatest simulation, and there are things that are cheap in the game or low exploitations that can easily be taken out if the game is properly played or properly set up. it will truly give people a testament as to who is better, because there's no AI assistance, or there shouldn't be any AI assistance. Like if you took in Fight Night Champion, if you took a few things out, it'll be the ultimate competitive game, completely one-on-one skill based. Even now it is considered to be one-on-one skill based, but you know, those little cheap elements sometimes ruin the fun of the game. But if you can take those little elements out, and that's usually what happens whenever you look at competitive gaming, there's certain aspects that are taken out of the game in order to make it completely fair and give both players or both teams a proper chance in order to win. But with games like boxing and UFC, there is no AI assistance. Well, in Champion there's block assistance, but you know, you take it back to round 3 or round 4 where you actually have to control the block. Those games will determine, you know, if you get punched, and it's your own fault if you get punched, or if you get hurt, it's your own fault. There's some things that you can take out, like I said, like the stuns and stuff. If you take all that out of the game, it'll be basically based on who can do the most damage to knock each other down. You know, who can land the best combinations, who can block the best, who has the best defense, who has the best offense. And you know, if the scorecards are fair and they're properly judged, there's no cheating and there's no glitches in the system. There's nothing to fall back on, and if you lose based on how well or how poorly you play the game. You know what I'm saying? That's why I feel competitive gaming should be. And you can sponsor one person. You know, you see it all the time with professional athletes, boxers, endorsements. It can be done, and if you bring that aspect or that level of competitiveness to gaming, that will truly determine and is a true testament as to what true skill is. You know, there's other game genres out there like racing games and stuff. Look, for racing games like Gran Turismo, Need for Speed, especially Need for Speed because that's my favorite car series of gaming, or racing series of gaming. I would like to see competitive play around that, but just the way car customization and stuff goes, even though it would be your job to customize your car the best, there's people out there who only look to drive the fastest cars, and depending on the map or the road, it could really determine what type of car type that you may need. And some people like to do just straight away freeway racing and stuff, and you see it where it could be competitive, but at the same time, you know, people only look to drive the best of cars or the best of tuners, and it doesn't really give a true testament as to how well you can drive or how well you can control, you know, how well you can control the car and how well you can move on. So I would like to see competitive racing. I'm not sure if there is. Somebody probably can leave that in the comment section if you guys are still watching, but you know, I would love to see that in competitive gaming. So like I said, there's plenty of types of competitive games out there, and you know, let me know in the comment section what you think. You know, where should competitive gaming be at? I think it should be in one-on-one skill-based games. Some people think it should be in teamwork, and some people just don't care. You know, they like to see a great fight, or they like to see great teamwork done on both teams. But for me, I want to see it more based on skill-based sport games like Fight Night and UFC. That's where the big money should be, in my opinion. So into the gameplay now. We just knocked our opponent down. I think that was the first time that we knocked him down with Kane in about the 8th round, and I found I had a lot of trouble just landing good effective shots that can knock this guy out. For the most part, we applied pressure pretty well and we used the jab, and our stamina is down, but I guarantee his stamina is low. And look at this beautiful 3-piece spicy combo that we actually land on him here. A beautiful left hook, and we end up clocking him onto the canvas to what I believe is the 2nd time. So throughout the fight, you know, you saw him working the outside pretty well, trying to keep his distance, but I felt that I did a good job of controlling the fight by using the jab and scoring enough points, and you know, landing a few power shots here and there and working the body. I felt he worked my body really well, and my defense could have been better. But for the most part, I think I did a pretty solid job of getting on the inside. And it just goes to show you that fighting on the inside is quite dangerous, but I feel it's rewarding because it's going to end up breaking your opponent down. It can end up costing you the match, or it can end up breaking your opponent down pretty quickly. So by me going throughout the entire fight, chasing him around the ring and jabbing, and him using the outside, it was just whose fighter will be able to do more damage. And Roberto Duran just hit harder, and I think that did end up giving me the advantage that I need, but I was still landing cleaner shots. While he was landing more body shots, I was trying to land more head shots. You know, you see the cuts on his face, you see where our main damage or our main target area was, as to where it was that we wanted to lay punches or lay hands on him, and it worked pretty much to perfection. So we're entering into the 9th round with the fact, after we knocked him down twice in the last round, that we can get the job done, and we need to end it here before it gets into the 10th round. I'm not too scared about him knocking me down. For the most part, I'm just trying to see if it's going to go to the decision or if it's by way of knockout. Probably it wasn't the most competitive fight, but it was definitely one that showed his test of endurance and the true heart of a champion, to keep fighting back, keep working the jab, you know, keep sticking and moving, and, you know, trying to stick to his style fighting and coming forward and throwing his combinations when he thought it was necessary to do so. So you see us here, we're trying to get him in the corner or somewhere close to the ropes where we can actually go to work. And I kind of cut off his escape lane, and I didn't do it all the time well and allow him to get back to the center of the ring. But I was just looking for this point for a good combination or just one big shot that I felt that can take him out of the fight and put it into it. So we're pressuring him back up against the ropes once more. This is where we've been trying to get him on fight, and you're really starting to see it more here in the 9th round than you've seen it in every other round. And it's working well, you know. We're still scoring our points, we're still scoring cleanly, but we really just can't put him out. Like, no matter what punch that landed so far, it just really didn't do the job. But there we go, we get the nice double left hook, right hook up top combination, and end up checking his chin with this pinpoint right uppercut here. And I'm sorry, son, get your chin check, and put a nice low left uppercut over top of it, and that should just about do it. We got her done. Hope you guys enjoyed. This is your boy FightNightsFinest, the sofa commentator. And watch how he raised quits at the end. That wasn't necessary, man. We had an honorable fight, but this is the sofa commentator signing off. Peace.